Welcome back to Miss Lee's tutorial videos. After a few classes, I found that a few of us had problems with this question. This question's on worksheet 1.1. This is the algebra practice. This is question 6. So I decided to go over this question with us over the video. So first of all, let's start the question. Throughout this video, there might be times that I will ask you to pause the video to try that particular part on your own before I do the work for you, and so that way it gives you a chance to practice as well. Okay, so let us begin. The average cost A. So A here, A is a particular value that is associated with a cost. So, give me one sec here. I am going to highlight this as yellow. Okay. The average cost A of producing N iPods. So I'm going to highlight that one too in a different color. Of N iPods is given by the formula as below. How many iPods would have to be produced for the average cost to be $80? Now here is the part where I'm going to tag the variable with a particular value, because I found that many of us had, some of us had this kind of problem with these variables. So let's try to make sense of them. Okay. We have the average cost A. The average cost A, this one, we can see down over here. So here we have the average cost, and the average cost in this case is $80. So we know that A, being average cost, equals $80. Okay? Also, you see that A is here, part of the equation. Okay. Now we also have N iPods. We see N in here and in here. Okay. So then some of you might be wondering, what is N? N iPods. What is N iPods? What that is, when we say N iPods, it means oops, that's too dark. Let me pick a different color. The number of iPods. So that would be our N. That's what N means here. Okay? So what we want to do is we're asked to find how many iPods. And look, that is exactly talking about the number of iPods. So how many iPods, number of iPods, this is what we don't know. This so happens to be N. Okay? So really, we don't know what N is. We're trying to solve for N. Okay? So what I like to do is I like to solve for N first before plugging in the numbers. Because notice if we plug in A over here, as we rearrange the equation, you'll find that you'll likely tend to get your calculator out, punch in the numbers, and then in that process, it is very easy to make mistakes. If you solve for N first and you plug in all the other numbers at the very last step, you're less prone to making mistakes. So that's exactly what I'm going to do, and we will definitely practice over time. So if you haven't had a chance to try that out, this would be a good time to pause the video, solve for N, and then compare what you have to what I have. I will also be doing that step by step after you pause the video. Alright, so you see below us, I have written our equation out again so that we can work with this. So, once we take a look at this, we notice that there are two ends. Okay, now you can't just isolate for one of the end. When you isolate for the variable, you must isolate for both the ends. You must get both the ends together in order to isolate it. Okay, so what I am going to do is, I hate working with any variable that is in a fraction and is in the denominator. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to bring this end to the top so that we can work with it with less difficulty. Okay, so let's multiply both sides of the equation by n. Okay, so once we multiply both sides of the equation by n, notice that this n cancels with this n on this side of the equation. So after we get this, we now have n times a, which I'll just write like this. This is equal to, so this n is gone, but don't forget this n is still here. This n over here, that one is still there. So then now we have 15000 plus 60n. Okay. Now many of us get stuck here, and we are wondering, okay, how do we get the n's together? So first of all, let's put them together. Let's put the team n's on the same side. Okay, so to do that, notice this is, we add 60n. If I'm going to want to bring this 60n to this side of the equation. Now this is plus, which means to do that I'm going to have to subtract 60n on this side, and don't forget to do it to the other side, because think of the equation like a scale. If you put an apple on one side of the scale is going to tip over. You got to put the same apple on the other side. Think of it that way, okay? So these two cancel. Alright, then you are left with NA minus 60n equals 15000. Okay, now for sake of simplicity, I'm actually going to rewrite this so it looks a little bit more clear. I'm going to rewrite this as an, right? You can do n times a just as you can do a times n. Minus 60n equals 15000. Okay, so this is just for viewing purpose, just for, it's better to look at it this way. This step is, you may have seen it in Math 9, hopefully you should have seen it in Math 9, but if you haven't, this is, in a way, what we're going to do is we're going to factor this n out of this side of the equation. It is the opposite of distribution. The steps to doing that, what we're going to do is we're going to put brackets around this, okay? And notice how there is an n in both of these terms. Because there's an n in both of these terms, we can take that n out. We can divide both. We can take this n on this, in this term outside, and we can take the n out on that, in that term as well. If we can factor out an n from both terms, what we have is, instead on the outside, we will have something that looks like this. We will have n, and in brackets, we have a minus 60. So notice that both ends are no longer inside the brackets. They have been factored out. If you don't trust that I did my math right, try distributing this n back inside the brackets, pretty much going backwards. You're going to get the same thing as you did the step before. Okay? So once we have that, this is equals to 15000. Alright, this is the last step. Because notice that we have n times this thing in brackets. I like to just think of that as a number. We don't know what it is. Don't let the variables scare you. That's one thing I always want to tell any student going to physics and are needing the math practice. Don't be scared of these variables. They are just numbers. Think of a as 100. 100 minus 60 is 40. It's just a number. This thing is just a number. So what we do is we just divide it, both sides, by the same number, which in our case is a minus 60. A can be 100, A could be any number. We don't know what it is. It's okay we don't know that number. So what? Okay, so we have A minus 60. As a result, these two cancel out. And we are ultimately left with n is equal to 15000 divided by A minus 60. Voila. Alright. So notice we have n. All we need is to know what a is. I'm going to zoom out. Once I've zoomed out, if we go back, we look at what a is. Oh, we do know what a is. A is $80. So if we put $80 in here, we should be able to calculate a value for n. So here's a good time to pause the video, try that out yourself, and then I will show you the solution once you unpause the video. Alright, so hopefully you had a chance to try that out. If you have, well, let's check how we did. So we're going to put A as $80. Okay, I'm coming down, zooming in, and I'm going to substitute that A as 80. So we have n is equal to 15000 divided by the a, which I'm going to use u to write 80 minus 60. So notice I put in the 80. Okay. Now, I sometimes don't like to use my calculator because I find it easier, but if you want to use your calculator, go ahead and do so at this step. But make sure what you want to do when you're punching your calculator is to be very careful with your brackets. Don't just do 115,000 divided by 80 minus 60. Okay? Don't do that. Make sure you put the 80 minus 60 in brackets. Okay, if you are doing some mental math, you're probably punching in 15,000 dividing it by 20, and that's okay. But make sure you have the brackets around these two because it's dividing by the whole thing, not just dividing by 80. Okay, so we have 15000 divided by 80 minus 60 is 20. Okay. And now if you want to get out your calculators, you want to punch in some numbers, that one is up to you. And then here, after you do some calculations, you should get 750 iPods. Okay, so that is our final answer. Make sure you want to box your answer at the end to show that you completed that. Okay, so that was that question. Hopefully you had a chance to try that out before seeing the solution. If you find that this question was a little bit troublesome, I highly recommend you trying out a few more algebra practice. You can find a lot of them online. You can email me if you have any more questions, or if you want to get extra practice. But please do not wait this out. Make sure you get the practice now before we actually need to use it and need to be proficient at it. Okay? Alright, thank you for watching. Tune in again for the next video, and hopefully you got something out of that. Bye now.